Smoke drifted in thin gray lines across the broken skyline, turning the late afternoon sun into a dull orange blur. The city had once been tall and bright, full of curved glass towers and floating transit rails. Now it was quiet, except for the distant crackle of small fires and the soft hum of emergency drones sweeping the ruins. Dust hung in the air like a second sky. Sergeant Bree Callahan moved slowly down what used to be a main street, her boots crunching over shattered panels and bits of stone. Her armor was scratched and dark with soot, but she walked with steady focus, scanning every shadow, every fallen beam, every place where someone might still be alive. The battle had ended 2 hours ago. The enemy ships had retreated after orbital defenses came back online. Human forces and their allies had secured the zone. Now came the part Bree always found hardest: looking for the ones who didn't make it out in time. Her helmet visor displayed flickers of life sign readings from scattered sources. Most were false alarms: heat trapped under metal, damaged power cells, malfunctioning service bots. Still, she checked every signal. You never skipped a maybe. "Sector sweep almost clear," came a voice through her comrade. "Corporal Mendez somewhere 3 blocks east." "You good over there, Sarge?" "Still checking a collapsed transit hub," Bree replied. Her voice sounded calm, but she felt the usual tightness in her chest. "Got a faint reading." "Could be nothing. I'll confirm." "Copy that. Shuttle evac in 40 minutes. Don't get buried, yeah?" "I'll try not to," she said, a small smile tugging at her mouth that no one could see. The transit hub had caved in on one side, its elegant arched roof now a jagged slope of metal ribs and cracked composite. A public holo sign flickered weakly nearby, still trying to display route maps to trains that would never come. Bree climbed carefully over a fallen support beam and paused, adjusting her scanner. The signal was weak, buried under layers of debris, small, irregular. She crouched and began moving pieces aside one by one. Panels, chunks of insulation, a bent seat frame. Her armored gloves worked with surprising gentleness, placing each piece down instead of tossing it. Dust coated her arms and shoulders. "Almost there," she murmured to herself. Then she heard it. Not through her scanner, not through the comm. A soft, shaky sound, like someone trying very hard not to cry. Bree froze, head tilting. There it was again. A tiny, breathless whimper from beneath a slab of cracked flooring.
"I hear you," she said immediately, voice low and warm. She switched her external speakers to wide broadcast so the sound would carry clearly.
"Hey, you're not alone." "I'm right here." The crying stopped. She moved faster now, but still careful. The final barrier was a triangular pocket formed by 2 fallen beams. She wedged her shoulder under one and pushed just enough to create space, then reached inside with one hand. Her glove brushed fabric, then something small and trembling. "It's okay," she said softly. "I've got you." She widened the gap and leaned closer. Her visor adjusted to the darkness, brightening the space beneath the rubble. 4 wide eyes stared back at her. The child was curled into the smallest shape possible. Thin arms wrapped around a narrow torso, pale blue skin dusted with gray. A strip of torn cloth hung from one shoulder. 2 of her eyes were squeezed shut in fear. The other 2 blinked rapidly in the dim light. Bree's heart clenched. "Hey there," she whispered. The child made a sharp, frightened sound and tried to shrink back further, but there was nowhere to go. One small hand lifted weakly, as if to shield her face. Bree understood that gesture. She had seen it before on many worlds. Slowly, very slowly, she reached up with her free hand and unlatched her helmet. It came off with a quiet hiss. She set it down beside her so the child could see her face clearly. Her brown hair was damp with sweat and stuck to her forehead. There was a smudge of soot across her cheek, Her expression, though, was as gentle as she could make it. "I'm human," she said, touching her chest. Bry. She didn't know if the child understood the words. A tone mattered more right now. "I'm here to help," she added. The child's eyes focused on Bree's face, searching. Fear was still there, huge and shaking, but confusion had joined it. This wasn't what she had expected. Bree slowly slid her hand closer, palm up, offering it instead of grabbing. "You don't have to be scared of me," she said quietly. "You're safe now." For a long moment, nothing happened. The distant fires crackled. A piece of metal shifted somewhere high above with a dull clank. Then one small, trembling hand reached out. It barely touched Bree's glove at first, just the tips of thin fingers brushing the surface. Bree stayed perfectly still. When the child didn't pull away, Bree gently curled her fingers, creating a careful hold. "I've got you," she whispered again. With slow, steady movements, she widened the opening a little more and guided the child out from under the rubble. The girl was lighter than Bree expected. Far too light. She lifted her easily and cradled her against her chest, one arm supporting her back, the other shielding her from falling dust. Up close, Bree could see faint bruising along the child's arms and a small cut near one of her eyes, already drying. No major injuries, thank God. The child pressed herself tightly against Bree's armor, all four arms wrapping around her as best they could. Her body shook with silent sobs. Bree stood carefully, keeping her balance on the uneven ground. "It's okay," she murmured, rocking just slightly without thinking. "I've got you."
You're safe. You're safe.
She tapped her comm with her shoulder. "Mendez, I've got a live one." "Civilian. Kid." Ooh. There was a short pause. "What species?" Bree looked down at the small face buried against her chest.
Not sure. One of the local colony groups, I think.
"Copy. Med team can meet you at the shuttle." Bree hesitated, feeling the way the child clung tighter when she shifted her weight.
"Yeah," she said finally. "We're on our way." She picked a slow path back through the ruins, one arm always wrapped around the child.
Every loud noise made the girl flinch. Every time Bree spoke, even softly, the trembling eased just a little. As they reached the edge of the secured zone, two human soldiers turned, weapons lowered, watching her approach. One of them blinked. "Oh." "Sarge?" Bree adjusted her hold. "Found her in the transit hub." The other soldier tilted his head. "Didn't know we had evac orders for non-registered civilians." "We didn't," Bree said evenly, continuing past them. They exchanged a look but didn't stop her. At the landing zone, the dropship waited with its rear ramp open, engines humming low. Medics in white-marked armor stood ready with scanners and stretchers. One stepped forward. "Sergeant, we'll take—" The child made a sharp, panicked cry and buried her face against Bree's chest, gripping tighter. Bree shook her head gently. "Easy." Slow. She knelt on the ramp instead of handing the child over, lowering herself to seem smaller. "Hey," she said softly. "They're helpers too." "Like me." The medic crouched a few steps away, keeping distance. "No sudden moves," he said quietly. Bree stroked the back of the child's head with one gloved hand. "You're okay. Nobody's going to hurt you." After a moment, the medic carefully extended a scanner wand, keeping his body low and his voice soft. The device hummed faintly as it read vital signs. "Malnourished," he murmured.
"Dehydrated. Minor injuries."
"Stable." "Good," Bree said, relief washing through her. The child slowly turned her head, looking at the medic, then back at Bree. One small hand reached up and touched Bree's jaw, as if confirming she was real. Bree smiled. "Still here." The medic prepared a hydration patch and held it up where the child could see. Bree nodded encouragingly. "It'll help you feel better," she said. The child hesitated, then allowed the medic to gently press the patch to her arm, but only while still clinging to Bree. When the dropship finally lifted off, the ruined city shrinking below them, the child sat curled in Bree's lap on a bench near the bulkhead. A soft thermal blanket was wrapped around her small body. She still hadn't let go. Bree rested her helmet beside her boots and leaned back against the wall, exhausted but unwilling to move. Outside the small viewport, stars began to appear as the ship climbed toward orbit. The child tilted her head up, looking at Bree's face again. Her expression was still fragile, but the wild terror had faded into something quieter, something searching. She made a soft sound, a single word in her own language. Bree didn't understand it, but she felt the meaning in the way the child's grip tightened just slightly, not in fear this time, but in trust. Bree swallowed past the lump in her throat and gave a tired, gentle smile. "Yeah," she whispered. "You're safe now." The child closed all 4 eyes and, for the first time since Bree had found her, fell asleep. The ship's artificial lights dimmed to simulate night, but Sergeant Bree Callahan was still awake. She sat on the lower bunk in the small medical observation room, her back against the wall, boots on the floor, arms loosely wrapped around the small alien child, sleeping against her chest. The room hummed softly with life support systems and distant engine vibration. It was quiet, safe, controlled. Everything the ruined city had not been. The child had refused every sleeping surface the med team offered. Not the padded cot, not the thermal nest designed for small-bodied species. Each time Bree tried to lay her down, the girl woke in panic, clutching at Bree's armor with desperate strength. So Bree stayed. The medical staff had eventually given up arguing and brought Bree a blanket instead. A soft knock sounded at the door frame. "Doc." Hoshino, the ship's senior medic, stepped inside with a tablet in hand. Her expression was gentle but tired. "She's still out?" the doctor asked quietly. Bree nodded, keeping her voice low. "Yeah. First real sleep she's had in a while, I think," Dr. Carlo said. Hoshino glanced at the readings on the wall monitor. Her stress markers finally dropped. "That's because of you." Bree shifted slightly, careful not to wake the child. "Because she's exhausted." "That too," the doctor said, offering a small smile. "But mostly because she thinks your safety." Bree looked down at the small blue face resting against her chest. All 4 eyes were closed now, thin lashes resting against pale skin. One small hand was tangled in the fabric of Bree's undershirt near her collar. "I didn't do anything special," Bree said. "You went back into a collapsed structure after active combat," the doctor replied. "You took off your helmet in an unstable zone, and you carried her out yourself instead of calling in drones." She tilted her head. "That's not nothing." Bree shrugged one shoulder.
She was a kid. Dr. Hoshino studied her for a moment, then tapped her tablet.
"We ran linguistic scans on her speech patterns while she slept, cross-referenced with known colony species." "And?" Bree asked. "She's Varelian," the doctor said. "Small agricultural species. Non-aggressive. They were settlers here under protection treaties." Breck felt a small twist in her stomach. "Were..." Dr. Hoshino gave a slight nod. "Most of their population centers were hit in the first wave." Bree looked back down at the girl, who shifted slightly but didn't wake. "Does she have family on record?" "We're checking," the doctor said carefully. "But communications from the surface are still fragmented." Bree already knew what that usually meant. The doctor softened her tone. "You should get some rest too, Sergeant. I'm fine. You haven't slept since before the drop." Bree gave a faint smile. "Occupational hazard, Doctor."
Hoshino stepped closer and lowered her voice. Attachment like this can be intense after trauma.
"For both of you." Bree met her gaze. "I'm not planning to disappear on her." I know, the doctor said gently.
Just be aware.
If command transfers her to civilian relief, it could be hard. Bree's jaw tightened slightly. We'll deal with that if it happens. The doctor nodded, understanding she wouldn't push further. Call if she wakes disoriented. After she left, the room felt even quieter. Bree leaned her head back against the wall and closed her eyes. Not sleeping, just listening to the small, steady breaths against her chest. Hours later, the child stirred. Her body tensed first, muscles going rigid. Then her eyes opened all at once. She made a small, sharp sound of fear. Bree was awake instantly. Hey, it's okay, she whispered. The girl's gaze darted around the unfamiliar room. Smooth walls, soft lights, not strange smells. Her breathing quickened. Bree shifted her slightly so they were face to face. You're on a ship. You're safe. No fighting here. The child focused on Bree's face. Her breathing slowed, just a little. Bree gave a small wave with her fingers. Hi again. The girl blinked. One of her hands slowly lifted and touched Bree's cheek, as if checking she was still real. Still me? Bree said softly. A medical drone rolled forward quietly from the wall, projecting a soft blue interface. The child flinched. It's okay, Bree said, keeping her voice calm. Friend. The drone emitted a gentle tone and displayed simple visual symbols: water, food, rest. The ship's AI had switched to basic cross-species communication mode. The child stared at the symbols. Slowly, she pointed at the water icon. Good choice, Bree said. A medic entered with a small hydration pouch designed for Varelian biology. Bree held it while the girl drank, small hands still gripping Bree's arm. Over the next day, the pattern stayed the same. The child would only eat if Bree was close. She would only sleep if she could touch her. Any loud noise from the corridor made her flinch. Word spread through the ship. Soldiers who had seen heavy combat and barely reacted to explosions now found themselves lowering their voices outside the medical room. Someone left a small, hand-carved animal figure by the door. Another taped a bright sticker to the wall panel near the bunk. On the second evening, Corporal Mendez leaned in the doorway, arms crossed loosely. So, he said quietly. You adopting her, Sarge? Bree snorted softly. Don't start. I'm serious. She looks at you like you hung the stars. Bree adjusted the blanket around the child who was drawing shapes on a tablet with one finger while sitting in Bree's lap. She's scared, that's all.
Mendez watched for a moment.
Command's asking questions. Of course they are. Relief transports coming in 3 days. Civilian transfers. Bree didn't respond right away. Mendez sighed. Just don't let them rip her away without a fight. Bree's voice was quiet but firm. They won't. Later that night,
Hoshino returned with an update. We found something, she said gently.
Bree looked up immediately. Family? Possibly. Varelians use biosignal tags for family clusters. One maternal tag is still transmitting from the surface. Bree felt a sudden rush of hope so strong it hurt. Alive? The signal is weak and hasn't moved in days, the doctor cautioned. But it's active. Bree looked down at the child. She has a mom. Yes, Bree swallowed. Does Command know? They do, the doctor said. And they've already marked the area as non-essential. Enemy patrols still active. High risk? Bree's expression hardened slightly. Of course. The child looked up at the shift in Bree's posture, sensing the change. She made a questioning sound. Bree smoothed the hand gently over her head. It's okay, she murmured. But inside, something had already settled into place, a decision forming, solid and unmovable. Across the galaxy, humans had a reputation for endurance, for strategy, for stubborn survival. But the ones who served beside Bree knew another truth. Humans did not walk away from crying children. And Bree Callahan had never been good at ignoring what felt like family. The decision settled into Bree's mind like a locked door. She did not announce it. She did not argue with command over open channels. She simply watched the rotating tactical map in the briefing room the next morning and memorized the route to the last known location of the Varelian maternal beacon. Red zones pulsed across the planet's surface, enemy patrol grids, artillery coverage. The beacon blinked deep inside one of those red sectors.
Search and rescue operations are suspended planetside,
the operations officer said, voice flat. Strategic withdrawal in 48 hours. We don't have the manpower to chase low-probability civilian signals. Bree stood at the back of the room, arms crossed, face unreadable. Low probability. After the briefing, she walked straight to the hangar deck. Private Ionescu was already there, running diagnostics on a light recon shuttle. He looked up as Bree approached. "You're thinking about it too," he said quietly. Bree didn't pretend not to understand. "You know the risk." He shrugged one shoulder. "Yeah." Still, a second figure joined them. Mendez, helmet tucked under one arm.
"Heard there's a stubborn sergeant planning something stupid," he said. Bree gave him a look.
Nobody's ordered. Nobody's obligated.
Mendez grinned faintly. Good. I'd hate to think I was following orders. They worked without fanfare. A systems test flight was logged. Extra medkits were loaded under maintenance covers. Weapons were checked but kept minimal to reduce weight. Dr. Hoshino intercepted Bree on the way back to medical.
"You're going down there," she said softly. "Not a question."
Bree met her eyes. "If there's a chance, I know," the doctor said. She handed Bree a small device.
"Portable translator tuned to Varelian family dialects."
And a biostabilizer patch set. Bree took it. "Thank you." The doctor hesitated. "Bring them back." "I will." Before departure, Bree returned to the observation room. The Varelian child looked up immediately when Bree entered, tablet forgotten. She made a soft, happy sound and reached out. Bree knelt and let the girl wrap all four arms around her neck. "I need to go somewhere for a little while," Bree said gently. She touched the girl's chest, then pointed to the planet on the small wall display. "Home." The girl's eyes widened.
"Mom," Bry said softly, hoping the word carried. She mimed holding someone tall, then pointed down again.
Understanding flickered. The girl made a shaky sound and pressed her forehead to Bree's. Bree held her a long moment, then stood. "I'll come back," she promised. The shuttle slipped from the carrier's hangar in the shadow of a debris field, using wreckage for cover. No official flight path, no escort. Inside the cockpit, Mendez piloted low and fast once they hit atmosphere. Clouds swallowed them, turbulence rattling the hull. "Enemy scans active," Ionescu muttered from sensors. "But we're small." They broke through cloud cover over a gray, scarred landscape. Fires still burned in distant districts. Whole neighborhoods were flattened into twisted grids. "Beacon triangulated," Ionescu said. "Old residential block, structural damage high." Mendez set the shuttle down in the shell of a collapsed plaza.
3 minutes on the ground if we're lucky, he said. They moved fast through broken streets, weapons up but silent.
The city smelled like ash and chemical smoke. Wind pushed dust through empty windows, making hollow sounds. Bree checked the tracker on her wrist. The maternal signal pulsed weak but steady. "Inside that structure," she said, pointing to a leaning apartment tower. The entrance was blocked by fallen stone. They squeezed through a gap into a dark corridor lit only by cracks in the walls. "Life signs?" Mendez whispered. Faint, Ionescu replied. 1, very weak. They followed the signal down 2 flights of cracked stairs. At the end of a hallway, a door hung half open, bent inward. Bree stepped through first. The room inside had been turned into a shelter. Blankets made from torn fabric. Empty ration containers. A broken lamp rigged to a small power cell. And in the corner, holding a metal rod like a spear, stood an adult Varelian. She was taller than the child, thin. One arm wrapped protectively around her side. Her eyes were wide with fear and exhaustion. When she saw armored figures enter, she made a harsh, desperate sound and raised the rod. Bree immediately lowered her weapon and removed her helmet again, setting it slowly on the floor. "We're not here to hurt you," she said gently. The Varelian didn't understand the words, but she understood posture. Bree knelt, hands open and empty. The alien's grip trembled. She looked ready to fight anyway. Bree slowly reached to her chest plate and pulled out the small recorder. She pressed play. The child's voice filled the quiet room. Soft, shaky, speaking in her own language. It was the message Bree had helped her record that morning. The Varelian froze. The metal rod clattered from her hand. She staggered forward a step, then another, eyes locked on the device as the child's voice repeated a simple phrase over and over. The mother made a broken, sobbing sound and fell to her knees. Bree's throat tightened. She stood and approached slowly, stopping a few feet away.
"Your daughter is safe,"
she said softly, though she knew the words weren't understood. Her tone was. The Varelian looked up, tears streaking down dust-covered skin. She touched the recorder with shaking fingers, then pressed her hand to her chest. Behind Bree, Mendez spoke urgently into comms. "We've got movement outside. Patrol drones. Time's up," Ionescu added. Bree nodded. She gently helped the Varelian to her feet. The alien winced in pain. "Injured," Bree said. "Can she move?" Mendez asked. The Varelian straightened with visible effort. "Good enough," Bree said. She guided the mother toward the exit. Outside, the distant whine of engines grew louder. They moved fast through side streets, keeping to cover. Twice they froze as drones passed overhead. Halfway back, blaster fire lit up the street behind them. "They've spotted us!" Ionescu shouted. "Go!" Bree yelled. The run. Energy bolts struck walls, spraying sparks. The shuttle came into view. "Get her in," Bree ordered. Mendez and Ionescu helped the Varelian inside. Bree turned, rifle raised, and fired controlled bursts at the advancing drones, buying seconds. "Bree!" Mendez shouted from the ramp. "Go!" she yelled back. "I'll follow." She ducked behind a burned-out transport and kept firing. One drone spiraled down in smoke. Another took its place. The shuttle engines roared louder. At the last possible moment, Bree sprinted, leapt onto the lowering ramp, and grabbed a hand Mendez extended. The shuttle blasted upward as enemy fire chased them into the clouds. Inside, alarms blared from minor hull damage, but they were airborne. Bree collapsed into a seat, chest heaving. Across from her, the Varelian mother clutched the recorder to her chest, crying in quiet relief. Bree let out a shaky breath and smiled tiredly. "Hang on," she murmured. "We're taking you home."